everyone, it's Emily. Today's video is going to be an addition to my end of the year series. I thought I was going to only be doing 4 videos, but this is going to be the 5th one. So if you haven't seen them, I am planning on doing the best, the worst, the most surprising, and the most disappointing books of 2017. But I wanted to add this video about overhyped books, which I would appreciate if people, instead of skipping ahead, would listen to a little bit of a discussion beforehand. I think I need to explain my points because otherwise people are going to freak out. I'm sure some people will freak out no matter what, but I feel like things will make a little bit more sense after I explain myself. I feel like sometimes BookTube or even the whole book community in general can be a little bit of an echo chamber. People get books, they get excited about them, they read them, they love them, and then more people do the same thing over and over again, and then next thing you know is that that new YA book is absolutely everywhere, and you're excited, you get it, you're super excited, you think it's going to be your new all-time favorite book, and then it's just okay, and because your expectations were so high, you end up being disappointed about it, which kind of my most disappointing book list that I had done. But these are books that I read, most of them ahead of the hype, or just that my expectations weren't too high, or books that I am expecting that are currently being overhyped, and when people get them, because they're just good books, not amazing, people will end up being disappointed by them. So I do want to mention that these books are all books that I do enjoy. I gave them all, I believe, between 3 and 4 stars, which is good for me. Anything that is over 3 stars, I enjoyed. Actually, I'm sure a lot of these books will also be in other people's best of the year, and I'm not insinuating anything by that. Like, I'm not saying that people are lying at all. I'm sure they did enjoy them, but I just think that people have been mentioning these books too much, almost, and then people's expectations will be too high. Did that make sense? I feel like it's a very hard concept to explain, but basically, those are all good books. I think people would enjoy them, but I think I need to like lower some expectations. I still think some of you will find these like amazing, but I think that a lot of people will appreciate me being like, it's good, but it's not like that good. Did that make sense? I hope so. Now let's go into the most overhyped book, in my opinion, from the year that I read this year. Just to make it extra clear, it's no one's fault. I feel like sometimes I feel almost responsible because if I rave about a book, I kind of feel sad whenever someone tells me that they didn't like it. Obviously, it's gonna happen. Just because I liked a book doesn't mean that you are going to like it. I'm gonna start with the ones that are very new, that came out this year and that you're probably seeing a lot around right now, like being very hyped. So just want to give my little thoughts on them, okay? So the first one is A Gentleman's Guide to Vice and Virtue, which I know. I listened to the audiobook of this summer and it had just come out. So my expectations weren't really high. I was just like, oh, it's a YA fluffy little book, which it was. And the audiobook is actually really good too. If you don't know anything about this, it's basically a very light, fluffy kind of adventure type of book. And the cast of characters is super diverse. There's one character who is bisexual, one of them is homosexual, one of them has epilepsy, and the whole story happens in the 1700s, so obviously all of these things are not seen in a positive light at the time. And I think people are mentioning so much how much they enjoy this that if I were to read it again now, like I hadn't read it this summer and I were to read it for the first time now, I would be like, because it's a fun, light, fluffy, kind of a YA version, a little bit of like Princess Bride type of thing. Yes, there's an adventure, there's a few jokes that are funny. Personally, I just think that if I were to read it now with all the hype out there, I would be disappointed. But if, especially next summer, you're in the mood for a really light, fluffy contemporary that is funny and cute and there's just a little bit of adventure, there's pirates going on, I think you would probably enjoy this. But I just don't think it's like the most amazing book out there. Ready for another controversial one? I wanted to talk about They Both Die at the End by Adam Silvera, and this was my first book from him and I did enjoy it. Again, it's something that I read as soon as it was out. Actually, I do own this one. For a second I thought I had listened to the audiobook, but no, I do own this. I'm not planning on getting rid of it, and if I were to read it now, I feel like I would probably be a little disappointed because everyone is like, this is the best book ever, and it was good, but I don't think it was mind-blowing. If you are looking for a contemporary coming of age with a sci-fi twist to it, with a romance, a diverse romance, I do think people would enjoy this. But again, I don't think it was mind-blowing. I don't think it's something I would reread constantly and rave about to everyone. I've read a lot, I'm realizing I've read a lot of coming of age, especially with a homosexual main character. and it isn't the best one that I've read this year. And it isn't also the one that I would recommend. But if you are someone that likes contemporary, YA contemporary with a little bit of love interest, and you're looking to get into maybe a little bit of a sci-fi because it's a dystopian society, I do think that little twist would be something you would be interested. I didn't mention what the story's about, but I feel like pretty much everyone knows at this point. But basically, in that dystopian society, people are being called the day that they're going to die, and you can't change anything about it. And obviously with the title, they will die at the end, you can imagine the heartbreak. And I do feel like you're gonna feel the feels. And I do think people would enjoy it, but I just want to say, like, I don't think this was a 5 stars read, you know? Maybe like 4, which is still pretty solid, by the way. Like, I enjoyed it, but it's not something I would like rave to everyone, and like, it didn't make it to my best of that's coming up. So it was good though. I did enjoy it. I just don't think it's, I feel like everyone's gonna twist everything I say in this video. We're taking the risk anyway. I really think it's an important subject. Like, we're always raving about so many books that eventually, like, you don't know what is actually worth reading. Like, I obviously read 120 books this year so far. So obviously, at this point, I have an idea what I really loved. So not everything is gonna be good enough to make it to my top 10, you know what I mean? So there's a bunch of good books. If you think like Curve Bell, most of the books are gonna be good, and that's what it is. Another one that's gonna hurt, are you ready? Because, oh, this one isn't from this year, but I still really want to mention it because I have seen it going around a lot, and I did enjoy it. I'm actually super excited about the new, the second book that's coming out. I'm gonna be including this in my most anticipated book, so clearly I enjoyed myself. I'm like feeling super defensive right now, but My Lady Jane by Cynthia Hand, Brody Ashton, and Jodi Meadows. This is a fantastic idea, love it. It's a YA historical fiction. Basically, they took a historical figure, My Lady Jane, which had a pretty sad life and end, and they decided to completely change everything, and they decided to include a bunch of fantasy element to it. And the idea, absolutely brilliant. That idea is amazing. The execution, I did enjoy myself, but it wasn't mind-blowing. I believe I gave this 4 stars, so like, it was still a solid read, but I just don't think it's as mind-blowing as I would think now if I were to read it at this moment. With that said, again, I enjoyed it. I'm planning on continuing. They're coming out with a new one. I believe the second one is about Jane Eyre, which is, yes, I'm incredibly excited. I'm definitely planning on reading that one, but I just don't think this is a 5-star read, you know? By the way, I just mentioned 3 YA ones. There's a few more, but there's also some adult ones that are being overhyped. It's just, there's a bunch that I've read this year that I feel like weren't worth all that hype. I've been sticking to a lot of like bestseller fantasy adult that from like Brandon Sanderson, for example, that so like I've tested less the waters, less like controversial new stuff, so that's kind of why there's less of them included here. Actually, let's go with one adult one just to balance it out. I listened to the audiobook of We Are Legion, which I don't think people are mentioning that much on YouTube. It's an adult sci-fi series where the twist is that you're basically following someone that ended up being in the future, I'm forgetting the word, but he's basically now a spaceship. Which, fantastic idea, and it's like hard sci-fi, which I haven't read a lot of, but I was really intrigued and I did enjoy it, but it gets so much hype on the internet, not necessarily BookTube, and everyone seems to like mind blown, absolutely love it, 5 stars, rave about everyone, like everyone needs to read this, and the audiobook was nice. I did enjoy it as an audiobook. But again, it wasn't a 5 stars for me. I've seen a lot of people compare it to The Martian 2 type of humor. Maybe a little bit, but again, it wasn't as good as I wanted it to be. Not to the point that I was disappointed with it, but I do think it's being overhyped. Like, everyone is like so in love with it that your expectation gets so high that when you read it, you're like, I mean, it was good, but it wasn't that good. Another one that is a new book, it's also YA, but I feel like I've been reading a lot, actually listened to the audiobooks of a lot of new YA books because my library has them and I can get them very quickly and there's not that many people waiting for them. So I've been listening to a lot of them. And it is The Upside of Unrequited. And if you were to read that book, I would highly recommend getting the audiobook because first off, it was done really well. And I feel like a lot of the conversation, the discussions were made like very casually, that reading them would be like, you know, very like teenagey, like chalking texting. So I do think the audiobook was perfect for that. The jokes were really well done. I did love a lot of things about it. Like the family relationship was great. It was very diverse. But again, it was a fluffy YA contemporary. It wasn't anything mind-blowing. This clearly didn't make it to my best of or my most surprising of the year. But if you're someone that enjoy the whole like YA contemporary with diverse cast, I do think people would enjoy this. But again, if I were to read it now and not when it first came out, I would think this was going to be amazing. I would probably be disappointed. But since I read it as soon as it came out, my expectations weren't super high and I ended up enjoying it. So it was a pretty solid book, but it just wasn't. I also wanted to mention Scythe by Neal Shusterman, which there's also a second book coming out in 2018, which I am also planning on reading. So it's not that I didn't like the book, but I do feel like in general, Neal Shusterman, I love his ideas more. That came out weird. I like his ideas more than I end up liking the execution. This is a dystopian world where basically, actually they probably consider it utopia, where there's now, people don't die anymore. There's no more sickness, everything is perfect, but because of overpopulation, they need people, the Scythe, to end up killing people and just to try and keep things under control. And I did enjoy myself. There was quite a few more plots than whenever you describe it that way, but I don't want to say anything that could be a spoiler. And I do plan on continuing, but again, I read it pretty much as soon as it came out, and if I were to read it now after hearing all the hype, I feel like I would probably be disappointed. But once again, I feel like it's a team for me now to just like his ideas more than I like his books. I'm still planning on continuing reading his books, but I'm now expecting this for the future. I also wanted to mention this one. This is gonna hurt, I know. Aristotle and Dante discovered the secret of the universe. But out of the 4 books that I've read this year that mostly have like a kind of similar premise, that you follow a main bi or homosexual main character, kind of coming of age, YA contemporary, this is my least favorite out of the 4. I still think it's a solid book, but it wouldn't be the first one I would recommend to others compared to the 3 other ones. With that said, there's some really great friendship. I love the relationship with the families in there. It's really awesome. But I feel like it was the most like contemporary one. The other ones were all pretty much contemporary, so like it doesn't really make sense, but I feel like sometimes this one felt a little bit more slice of life, kind of on the boring side. I know, don't kill me, but like just basically between the 4 of them, this is my least favorite one. That's all that matters. So with that said, I still understand why people liked it, but I feel like it's a little too overhyped. And if I were to read it now after reading the 3 other ones, because this was the first one that I read out of the 4, I think my rating would have been lower. It's still good, it's just that whenever you read a few that are kind of similar in a row, you kind of realize that maybe some of them are better than others, or that you prefer out of them, so this wasn't the favorite one. Can I just give a shout out to 2 series that I still loved? Like these 2 I actually really loved, but I feel like they are being mentioned so much that expectations might be getting a bit high. Absolutely recommend these series. They both made it to my best of last year or this year, now I can't remember. So I'm posting the video on this very flattering frame just to say that I'm going to be including only one of the books that I mentioned here, just because I don't want to repeat myself from video to video, so I'll be skipping that part and hiding the cover in the background, so just don't mind that. I love them, but I feel like people are starting to expect things that are too big, or the things that aren't exactly what the books are. So just a little shout out to them. Still love them, still actually recommend those. Like these ones, I wouldn't recommend to everyone. It would be very specific to someone's taste, but these I recommend way more. But I still just want to like lower expectations a little bit. Kind of the same thing with this trilogy, which again, that's gonna really hurt. And I know, I wanted to talk about the Darker Shade of Magic trilogy, and I wanted to mention that I think this is a fantastic fantasy series. And it's really great because it's kind of in between a YA and an adult fantasy. It's considered adult, but I feel like if you're starting to get into adult fantasy, you're a little bit intimidated. I would recommend getting into this one because it's very easy to follow. The writing is beautiful, but it's not overly complicated. There's quite a bit of action, but you know, it's just still simple to follow. The magic system is great. It's based basically on the elements. But personally, I feel like some of the characters are not likable. And I feel like their characterization is not super deep, so like if you're really used to reading a lot of like really incredible fantasy adult series, this might not be as good. I still obviously absolutely loved it. Again, I'm gonna mention I put it in my best of, but it's also a series that I don't think gets better as you go. The 3rd one I did mention in my most disappointing books of the year, so I still had liked it. I believe the whole series in general I gave like between 4 and 5 stars to each book, so clearly, I like them, but I think it's being very overhyped right now, and some people end up reading it and being disappointed, and I just wanted to, you know, maybe a lower expectation, you can still read this and this could become your all-time favorite book. I believe that. But I don't feel like it's the best fantasy series I've read, you know? If I were to do a best of favorite fantasy book of all time, which I haven't read enough of them in general to do that video, it will be coming probably in a year, but like I want to read more fantasy, which is gonna happen in 2018, but I'm not sure it would make it because of the series in general. I don't feel like it improves really well. Some of the characters, like, is it Lila? She really annoys me and she kind of gets worse, especially in the third book. She's really annoying, so it kind of ruined the book a little bit, and that's why it was my most disappointing books of the year. But yeah, I believe this is getting overhyped. It's a really solid fantasy series, but it's not 5 stars material for me. I swear this video is gonna get more hate than my worst book or my most disappointing books of the year. I'm not sure if any of this made sense to you, but I felt the need to just talk about this. I feel like too often books are getting overhyped and we're getting disappointed and our expectations are too high, and I get that. Like, it happens to me and it's frustrating because obviously when I see people rave about books, I get super excited, and I love BookTube. It's how I discover so many books, but I feel like sometimes when you watch a bunch of videos, you get too excited, you see the same books over and over again, which is why I kind of try to include like very diverse books and include not the same books over and over again. So I hope everything made sense. I'm not sure if I should post this, but I'm doing it anyway because I think this could be useful to have a discussion about this. So if you want to discuss this with me, please leave comments in the comment section. If you have read these books, do you feel similarly? Is there other books that you think that are good but are being overhyped right now, or in the past, or in general? And so I hope you enjoyed this video. Don't forget to give it a big thumbs up and to subscribe to not miss any future ones. I will be linking on the screen some of the other videos in that series. Don't forget to subscribe because really they're coming out very quickly and I'm so excited because I'm going to be sharing my favorite ones very soon. So that's it. I'm going to be seeing you in my next video. Bye.